Hi, hello, I'm Scott and welcome to my channel, and today I'm going to be doing a video of all the books that I read this summer. I love these kind of videos where you just get to see what books they've been reading. It gives me really good ideas for books that I should pick up, and I was thinking about making them for the channel, and I realized I don't read enough books to do like a monthly, all the books that I read, because it would be like 2 books max. So instead, I decided I was going to do it by season, so these are going to be all the books that I read this summer. I have them in front of me, except for one. So I filmed an unhaul video for this channel that's actually gonna go up after this video. And one of the books I was unhauling because I wasn't gonna keep it, and I accidentally donated it instead of keeping it specifically so that I could show it in this video. So I'll just talk about it at the very end. I don't obviously then have a copy to like hold up, so I'm gonna have to just talk with my hands during that portion. But I did read a ton of books over the summer. I tend to, in general, read a lot of books in the summer. So this one's gonna probably be the longest video that I film. And yeah, I'm gonna get into the 10 books that I read in the summer. So the first book is actually on my Kindle, so I don't think it's gonna show very nicely, because I don't have the one that's like in color. It is Green Girl by Kate Zambrino. So this book is about a woman who moves to England, and it's about her life as a green girl, or like a new girl. I thought this book was okay. It's definitely not my favorite. I actually am reading it for a video that's going to be coming out in October. So it's definitely a good book. It's like super well written. It's just not my cup of tea. I still think it's a worthwhile book if you are interested in it, in reading it. It just didn't end up being the perfect book for me. I don't typically like rate books, but I give this kind of like around like a 3-star review. It just wasn't really written for me. But I'm still happy that I read it, and I think it's gonna be really great in that October video that I was thinking about. So oh yeah, this is also what my Kindle looks like. I realized that like I should show that, that's it. But yeah, so this was one of the books that I have read this summer. The next book is The Odd Woman and the City by Vivian Gornick. This is my library's copy. I loved this book. I thought this book was so good. It was a little bumpy at the start for me when I read it, but I ended up really, really liking it. It's a memoir. It's about a woman's experience in New York. This, again, I also read for a video that's gonna come out in October. A lot of these books actually are, but so I'm gonna stop mentioning that. But I ended up really liking this. There's so many great quotes in it, and I thought it was so interesting, like the referring of like the odd woman, because she means, she like talks about it, she means like feminist women is the odd woman, and it's based off of another thing that was written previous where they referred to feminist women as odd women, and so she's describing herself that way. I really loved this book. I would give it like 4 stars. It wasn't my most favorite because it was a little bit hard to get into, but I ended up really liking this book, and if you're interested in it, this is like a great book to pick up. Thought this was awesome. The next book, it's also in my library's copy, but I actually do own a copy of it. I own a copy of it on my Kindle, but I picked up the physical copy from my library just because I do like reading physical books more than reading ebooks. And that's Animals by Emma Jane Unsworth. This was phenomenal. I've been wanting to read this for a hot minute because I was gifted it, I think for Christmas a couple of years ago by my brother-in-law. And so I've just had it on my Kindle, and I finally picked up the book and read it, and I loved it. It's about 2 women who are friends, and they're kind of dealing with one of the women growing up. And kind of the idea is they're in their 30s and they go out partying all the time, and one of them has a serious boyfriend who they're actually gonna get married, and it's about how like that relationship can change. And I loved this book. It was so good. I would give this 4.5 stars for sure. There were definitely parts where I was like actively getting angry at the book because I was like, if this character makes the wrong choice one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. But I found that the ending was super satisfying. I really, really loved this book. great summer read. I loved reading it. Honestly, I read a lot of really good books this summer. The ones that I did not like, I have thoughts about, and we'll get to them. But this one was a great read, and I'm so happy I read it this summer. The next one, okay, so I released like my first video is like my favorite books of all time. There is a book that potentially should be in that list now that I've read it, which is Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, I think is how you say her last name. It's a memoir. This is a 5-star for me. I loved this book. It was so great. This copy my sister bought for me for the holidays, and actually a little funny story about it. I have 2 sisters, but this is one of my sisters did this. She saw that it was on my Christmas list, and she had actually read it and did not like the book, and she gave it to me and was like, I didn't like it, hope you do. Killed me. I loved this book. It is complete 5 stars. I adore this book. I found it so great to read. I want to read more Dolly Alderton now. Like, that literally got me. This is just like the memoir of her life and everything she knows about love. I love the formatting. It's like little essays. So there's ones about bad parties, bad dates, and then there's always a like everything I knew about love at, and then it's like an age. And I really loved this book, and I think it's phenomenal. This and I Feel Bad About My Neck by Nora Ephron are books that I think like every woman in their 20s should read. And so I like loved this book. I think if I ever do like an updated my favorite books of all time, this book's making it. I really loved it. And I'm actually gonna give my copy to my friend to read because she has been wanting to read this book, and so I'm gonna give her my copy now that I can be like, no, this book is amazing. So this one. We're getting to the book I don't like. We're getting to a book I didn't like. So this was Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino, Reflections on Self-Delusion. I did not like this. I like Gia Tolentino, actually. I have read a couple of her pieces, and I think I figured out what the problem was, like partway through the book, is that I am uninterested in reading Gia Tolentino's thoughts on things that I don't care about. And so like, I think that's kind of the fundamental issue, is that because this is a bunch of essays, I am uninterested in some of the essay topics, and there's something about her voice in her writing that when it is a topic I'm uninterested in, I am like actively annoyed while I'm reading it. There were a couple of these essays where I was like, you're really testing my patience, Gia. Like, I am on the verge. What were some of the really bad ones? Ecstasy. I hated the essay Ecstasy. It just annoyed me to no end. IV Dread, disliked it a ton. There were a bunch of these that I was like actively frustrated with her. And like the IV Dread one was really the killer, and that's the final one in this book. It is about how she doesn't want to get married. And I'm like, that's totally cool. I don't think marriage is for everyone. I am so happy for people to make their own personal choices on if they're married, if they're not. The way she talks about marriage, I was just like, you're pissing me off. It's okay, you don't have to get married. And she like talks about people being really annoying about, well, when are you gonna get married? Which like, I agree. It is incredibly annoying to have people do that to you. But it doesn't sound like she at all tries to shut those people down. It sounds like she just goes, you know, we're not really thinking about it. And then like a couple of years later, they'll be like, still not thinking about it. It's like, just say you don't want to get married. It's okay. And just kind of the way she talks about it, I was like, girl, Also the Ecstasy one, it was about how she had the same feeling doing drugs as she did going to church, which I was like, revolutionary. Drugs and Jesus, they're similar. Like, we have so many songs that literally do that, and so many other think pieces. It just felt like this didn't need to be an essay in this book. I wish she had even put like an essay that I had already previously read in this book to make it more worthwhile. That was, I read the like Instagram face one that she wrote, and I liked that one. And I was like so bummed out that it wasn't in this collection, because I was like, God, that would have made this so much better. I found her voice to be very frustrating on topics I wasn't interested in, and I can read a book that covers topics I'm not interested in and still enjoy it. That was not the case for her writing, so I think from now on, I am going to be very selective with the stories that I read from Gia, and only do the ones that I actively am interested in the topic, because this was a completely frustrating read. I actually am gonna unhaul this. Unlike the book that I accidentally unhauled, this book I kept just for this video so I could say I didn't like it. I would give it, because the problem is it's not badly written, so like I cannot give it a 1 star out of 5 because like it's not badly written. I just hate it. 2 stars. I'm giving it 2 stars. Ugh, that book just, ugh, okay. This book I also didn't love, but for different reasons. So this is Bad Feminist by Roxane Gay. I thought that her viewpoint was really great. Roxane Gay is basically the antithesis in my brain of Gia Tolentino, where she could be talking about literally anything and I'm like, I am interested in what you have to say. Like, I liked all the vibes that she was giving me. I thought it was really great. The biggest thing for me about like why this book wasn't like a favorite was, I don't know if I've seen speeches of Roxane Gay. I've heard a lot of the points before explained very similar way. So it just wasn't very new and innovative. And so it just ended up being a little bit repetitive to me because I've already seen that. I read this for a video. So, I know this book is older. I actually, while I was reading it, I kept thinking, I would love if she wrote like an addendum to this and like a Bad Feminist 2 and like kind of going over her thoughts again. Because I actually really liked a lot of the stuff that she was saying. So that was really cool. The only issue I had with this was that it was a little bit repetitive because I've heard those talking points, and that might just be because I read this book in 2025 and it came out in 2014, where it's just like, I've heard this before. But I thought that she has a phenomenal voice as a writer, so I actually really liked this. I give it like a 3 star, like kind of right in the middle, or like a 2.5. I just like, it was middle of the road because it was repetitive, but I didn't think it was poorly written. I was engaged the entire time. She was talking about stuff that I was like, okay, about, and I was still engaged, and so I really liked this. The next book is Heiresses, The Lives of the $1 Million Babies. This is by Laura Thompson. So this is a nonfiction book about heiresses and just like what they go through as women. And I read this for my book club, and I really liked it. It is a bit uneven, is kind of what I'll say. There are chapters where I was like, I want the whole book being this. And then there were chapters where I was like, okay, this is here. And so it was very uneven in that way. And I think that's just like an issue of, she talks about like individual heiresses and about time periods of heiresses. And I think there are just some time periods that are more interesting than others, which is not Laura Thompson's fault. It's a similar thing that happens with the book Radium Girls by Kate Moore. In that book, like, if you don't know, if you ingest radium, you will die. And so like a bunch of the women that you meet at the beginning of that book eventually die, and then they introduce a new batch of women that you know are also gonna die from this terrible disease of radium poisoning. And so like partway through the book, you just like feel really defeated and like really frustrated. And this book had that uneven feeling of like, oh, we've killed everyone off, now we're having a horrible time again. I will say I think this one's more fun. Like, I really did like this book, and I would recommend this to other people. I think people would really enjoy reading this book. I'm happy that I read it, and I did not know about like heiress snapping, which is like where you kidnap an heiress to marry them to get their money. And it was so interesting reading this book because I just didn't know a lot of this information, and I found it so fun to read. It was just, there were uneven parts that kind of tore down the reading experience. I would give this, though, if I had to give it a rating, I didn't think about the ratings before I said it, and then I was like, oh, well, now I have to do it. Like a 3.5. Like, I thought this book was very, very good and well written. I like Laura Thompson's writing. I have picked up books solely on the fact that I like her writing, So I was into this. It was uneven at parts, but I don't think that's a Laura problem. I think that's like a sometimes history's boring problem. So that is Heiresses. Okay. Next, this is actually a reread, and this was also for my book club. It's Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. So I have read 2 Sally Rooneys. I've read Normal People and Conversations with Friends. I want to read Intermezzo and Beautiful World. I just haven't yet. And this was actually my least favorite out of Normal People and Conversations. And this was our book club pick for August. And I reread it and I loved it. I was like, oh, it is really good. And I don't think it wedged out Normal People, but now it's not oh, that's the book I didn't like. Now it's, oh, this is the other Sally Rooney book that's good. If you don't know the plot line, it is about a character named Frances and a character named Bobby, and they are exes who do slam spoken word poetry. It's not slam poetry, it's just spoken word. And they meet a married couple, and it's about their dynamic with this married couple. I think it says that on the back. It says there's some flirtations between Frances and Nick, which is the husband, and it's really good. I loved it on the second read. I think a lot of people get scared of Sally Rooney books because she doesn't use quotations. That does not bother me, and I tell everyone who I recommend Sally Rooney to, I say, she doesn't have quotations, but literally your brain will get it after the first 2 chapters. Your brain will just connect and start reading it. I really liked it on my second read. I was so shocked that I liked it as much as I did on my second read. I was devouring the book. I loved it. I would probably give this 4 stars. I was so surprised that this reread was so good. And I'm happy I kept it in my collection and did reread it because it did change my feelings about the book. So that was super great. Okay. So this is The Unworthy by Augustina. I don't know how to say the last name. I think it's... I'm really nervous about saying her name wrong. And I also think I said her first name wrong. Augustina Bastericia. I might just start calling people by their first names and then their last initial because I'm a little worried about that. But this is Unworthy. This is her second book. Her first book was Tender is the Flesh. And I read that book and I wasn't blown away with it. I actually did unhaul it because I read it and a lot of people were like, it's so gross. And I guess I just didn't feel that way when I read it. I think it's because I couldn't get over the idea of if all meat was toxic, wouldn't you just stop eating meat? I couldn't get over the it seemed like there was an easy solution to the problem before eating other people. But I know I've heard people say it's a cultural thing that meat is so important. So I'm not gonna judge on a fictional book, but The Unworthy was definitely a much better book to me. I really liked this. It is about a woman who is in a convent. It's kind of the end of the world, and she is living in this convent where just weird stuff is happening, and then a new person shows up to the convent. And so it kind of just goes through all of her time there. It's written in her journal, so you don't get the full scope of everything. I loved it. I thought it was so spooky. I thought it was so creepy. I really, really liked it. I actually picked it up, I think, the first day that it came out because I was I loved her writing in Tender is the Flesh. I just wasn't super intrigued on the plot of Tender is the Flesh. And so I was I think based on the plot of this one and the fact that I already like her writing style that I'm gonna love this book, and that was true. I loved it. It was so, so good. It is, I'm trying not to spoil it. That's kind of the thing, is since this is kind of mystery, I don't want to spoil anything in the book. It is really great. I think there is some graphic stuff that might upset people, but if you read the jacket flap or the little summary synopsis, you will know if it's not for you. If you're oh, that seems like it might get gross, then it is gonna get gross for you and maybe you shouldn't read it. But I really, really liked this. I was so pleasantly surprised. I'm so excited for whatever her next book is. She obviously has a knack for writing this just kind of creepy vibe, and so I really, really can't wait to read it. Okay, so then now we have the book that I read that I accidentally unhauled which it is Get Thee Off My Lawn by Daria Vernon. So I read this for my book club as well. It is a short like romance novella, and it's about a main character who owns a swan. It's set in the Regency era, and her swan keeps going over to her neighbor's pond. And so she goes to get her swan and falls in, and her neighbor comes and helps her, and it turns out he's really cute. And it's just like a super fun and silly book. I've actually read it previously for another book club, and then I read it again for another book club. It's super fun, it's silly. I think it's like the perfect, I want to get out of a reading rut book because it's short, it's easy to read, it's fun. I think the characters are all super likable in it. I think sometimes with romances, I don't often read romances. I think sometimes with romances, the characters can kind of become unlikable because a lot of issues typically are like lack of communication. And in this book, it makes sense that they struggle to communicate because it's the Regency era, and it also only takes place over like 3 days. So like, it totally makes more sense. I liked the book. I thought it was so fun. If you are like missing the Bridgerton series, this is just like a fun little like, oh, like it kind of gives you the Bridgerton. I really liked it. I would give that book, what would I give it? I'd give it 3 stars. Like, I think it was just really great, and it's just like a perfect, like, pick-me-up book. I don't know if I set a rating for The Unworthy. Like, I would do like a 3.5 for The Unworthy. So that is that book. This is kind of a shorter video. Those are all the books that I read in summer, and I really, really enjoyed them, and I'm so excited to start my fall reads as well because there are going to be some great ones in there. But that is all I have for you today, and I hope you have a great day.